Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tell Your Story, my video series where I seek to find people who have inspired, challenged, or encouraged me along the way and allow them to share pieces of their story and their brilliance with you. I'm so thrilled this week to have my special guest, Josie Bensko. Josie, thank you so much for coming on today. Kind of tell everybody a little bit about who you are.
Okay, thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I am Josie, and I am a fourth-year teacher, so I'm still pretty new to the education field, but I teach sixth grade science in central Illinois, in the middle of nowhere.
Well, Josie, I found out about you through Get Your Teach On and through Instagram, and it's crazy to me. I did not realize that you were only in your fourth
Yeah.
year of teaching.
I know, I'm still a baby when it comes to the education world. It is crazy. It's all happened so fast. I don't feel like it's only been my fourth year. I feel like I've been teaching forever, but then in some aspects, I'm like, oh wait, I am a baby still.
So have all 4 of your years been in middle school?
They have, but actually I am an elementary education major because I was kind of a rebel when I went into college, and my mom was my sixth grade science teacher, which is actually a fun little fact. And so my whole life, everyone was like, you're going to be just like your mom. You're going to be a sixth grade science teacher. And I'm like, no, I am not. I'm going to be different. I'm going to teach kindergarten. And so I went to college thinking I'm going to teach kindergarten. And then I started working with kids at like camps and counseling. And I was like, shoot, I like middle school. And then by the time I decided that, it was too late to change my major. So thankfully it's K-8. And so then my last 2 years I focused on middle school, and I've just been there ever since. And I don't see myself doing anything but middle school.
Well, what I love about you is, when I saw some of the stuff you were sharing, and I've interacted with you a little bit, to me, I got that total elementary teacher vibe. But I love that even though you were working with secondary students, you are doing some of that stuff that is stereotypically elementary, where some people who sometimes teach secondary are like, that's too kiddie, we don't do that at this age. Why do you think that's really important for you to be bringing in for the age kids that you work with?
That's so funny that you say that, because everyone that walks into my classroom, they're like, oh my gosh, you're totally an elementary ed major. I have gotten that like all my whole career. Anyone from the district that comes in, they're like, oh, I can tell that you're elementary. But I feel like I do it a lot because the entry level for my school is 6 through 8. So the sixth graders are the babies. So they come from elementary and fifth grade. So I feel like the first semester, they're still fifth graders. And so I really think that they still love that elementary factor, even though they try to be older. They try to act like they're too cool for it. But deep down, like, I know that's what's best for them, and I know that they love it. So I try and implement those little tiny things along the way. Like just the other day, I have a carpet at the front of my room with a stage, and I'll pull the kids to the carpet just to be focused a little bit more on whatever I'm teaching. And just like those little tiny tweaks and pieces, they love, even though they're elementary.
Well, and I've always said too, I've worked with high school seniors before who will work harder for a sticker than any kindergartner I've ever met.
Right.
So it's all in how we set it up and how we build that for
They
them.
still love it deep down. They're always going to be elementary kids.
Well, obviously, when you're in an environment where you stand out or you are doing something different than is typical, do you ever feel what's the right word? Do you ever feel like you're charging into battle and it's just you and nobody behind you, and you're out on these new frontiers?
Yes, especially being so young, because I feel so. I'm at a new school this year. So I taught at my old school for 3 years, and this is my first year at my new school. So a lot of what I did at my old school, I would shut my door and do it anyways. And I would feel embarrassed that people would be looking at me or judging me like, oh, she's just that young teacher doing these crazy things again. And so I had to get over that. My first couple years, I really did close my door, and I still did it anyways because I knew that's what was best for the kids, and that's just how I taught. But then the last couple years, people are like, oh, that's just Josie. Like, she just does those things now. But then slowly and surely, other teachers will be like, open my door. Okay, what are you doing today? Like, that looks cool. Come show me how you did that. And so that's cool too. But my goal at my new school was to not have that attitude and to not be nervous and to not be scared and just embrace it and own it. And I feel like I've done that so far. And now they're just like, oh, she's in a costume today. Like, that's just typical. That's nothing new.
Well, and I'm sure the kids are leaving your class talking about it as they go to other classes. So that's obviously always going to interest other teachers with, because I remember I worked on a team once and I had one of my partners who she didn't want to do any of the stuff the way we were doing it. She was like, that's not me. I've done this for 20 something years. I'm not going to do that. And then one day she just started doing it. And I was like, I've been working on you for like 5 years. Why are you just now starting this? And she was like, I got tired of all the kids coming to my class talking about what they did in yours. I wanted them to leave my class talking the same way. So I decided to start doing more fun things for them. And I was like, hey, sometimes that's all it takes is you wanting the kids to leave your room loving it.
Right. It can be so impactful. And my goal is I love it when I hear in the hallway, what are we doing in science today? What are we doing in Miss Bensko's class? And they're talking about it in the hallway or at lunch. Like that's when I feel like I've succeeded in my lesson for the day.
So you mentioned at the top of the show that your mom was a sixth grade science teacher as well, and you were kind of leaning towards elementary. Did you ever picture yourself teaching science? And if so, a second part of that question is how has your mom kind of helped with your educational career now, knowing that you're teaching the same thing she taught?
Oh my goodness, I could talk an hour about my mom. My mom she's retired now, but she was the greatest teacher in the world. I always tell people she was like Hope King, but before Hope King. You know, she was doing all those room transformations and doing these crazy lessons before Instagram, before anyone knew about it. So I saw her love her job every single day, and she just really told me to do whatever I wanted. I can be anything. But then I just saw how much she loved her job and everyone loved her. And she was just this amazing teacher. And I was like, I want to be that. I want to be that for students because she was always the teacher everyone talked about. She was everyone's favorite teacher. And she really instilled science in me. You know, everywhere we went, our winter breaks or when we would have snow days, we would do experiments. Sorry, something happened with the camera.
There you go. You're back.
Okay. But on snow days, we would do experiments with the snow outside, and it was just always about science. And so she really instilled that in me from day one. So I'm certified in math and science, but science is my passion because it can just be so hands-on. But she's retired now. And I swear I text her every single day. I'm like, Mom, the kids aren't understanding this, or I need a lesson on cells. Help me. And then by the end of the day, I'll look at my phone and she'll send me like 10 links to different websites or different products, or I found this cool video. And so she is like my little assistant. She's amazing. She never stops wanting to learn. So yeah, she's just my sidekick and who I go to for everything. And I can't thank her enough. She helped me decorate my room. She helped me move classrooms, move schools. She's amazing.
I love that. Was there anything you ever wanted to do besides teaching?
No, I was the school rat. I was always in her room. I was begging her to grade papers and write on the board and just do anything and everything that related to teaching. There was never anything else on my mind. I was one track, one focus.
That's awesome. So what is your favorite thing to teach in science?
This is a tough question. So I am a physical science person at heart, and that's super hard for me because my district just got all new curriculum and we switched everything up. So now I teach a lot of life science. So I'm seeing all these teachers teaching physical science in my old lessons, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I miss it so much. So that's been a really hard challenge for me this year is learning, number one, learning new curriculum, but learning a subject matter that I don't know a lot about, honestly. So that's been difficult to manage.
So, you know, you spoke a little bit about learning a new curriculum. Over the last 4 years, what do you think is the biggest lesson you've learned that you weren't expecting to learn whenever you became a teacher?
Oh, man. Pulled a hard one on me. It's okay to fail. It's okay for a lesson to be not so good. I remember my first year of teaching, I taught thermal energy, one lesson completely wrong. I taught like conduction, convection, and radiation completely wrong to my first hour science class. And afterwards, I went to my co-teacher and I was like, oh my gosh, I just taught all of this wrong to these 30 kids, and they're going to be so mad at me when they come in tomorrow and I have to reteach the lesson. And so I had a planning period, and I was like, I have to redo my entire lesson for the day. So thankfully I had that time to redo it, and then I taught it right the rest of the day. But then I walked into that class the next day, and I was like, guys, I made a mistake. We have to relearn this. I taught it wrong. I apologize. And they were just so nice and sincere about it. And it just was a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. But as a first year teacher, I was so worried about that. And then it happened to me. And then we all moved on. And it was a big lesson that I learned. So,
hey, I have totally been there. There's been several times where I've had to apologize for the lesson I taught. So I totally get that. Talk to me a little bit. You have quite the Instagram following as well. How did that come about?
oh my gosh, it's a crazy story. I don't know how it happened, honestly, but it was after my first year of teaching. I lived with two of my best friends, and we were all first year teachers. So that year was crazy, and we all like ate our feelings after every single day. But we followed all these teachers on Instagram our first year, and we were like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like, we can do this. But we were so worried about what people in our real lives would think when we made this account. And so we were like, if we three do it together, then we're all going to look like idiots if it fails, or we're all going to succeed together. So we were like, let's just do it. So one night we all made our little Instagrams, and we all came up with names, and we made it. And then it's just ever since then, it was a slow start for sure. Mm-hmm. And during my second year of teaching, I like quit Instagram, I say, because it's like a second job. It takes a lot of time. And just being a second year teacher still, I didn't have time for it. So for 9 months, I was like not on it at all. So then in that spring, I like really started to post again and post on my stories. And then that's just when it really took off.
So, but your Instagram handle is Maniacs in the Middle. So where did that come from?
I wanted something with middle school, obviously, because I'm a middle schooler at heart. That's why I teach them. And so then I can be crazy in my classroom. So I just thought Maniacs in the Middle. And that's where it came from.
I love that. Well, a minute ago you talked about, having to apologize for lessons that you did incorrectly or things like that. And then when you look at people with large social media followings, I mean, people follow you or follow me or follow other people, and sometimes they get this false perception that we have it all together or we don't make any mistakes. Do you also find yourself falling in that trap of people that you follow, of comparing yourselves to them?
100%. Last year, I do this lesson on egg cars. Our students build egg cars and they race them, and then they try to protect this egg. And so I transformed my room into a racetrack. And literally at that same moment, Hope and Wade were doing it in their classroom. And I was on my phone during a planning period, just looking at all of their videos and pictures, and I was depressed. Mm-hmm. And one of my coworkers walks in and she was like, what's wrong? What are you doing? And I'm like, look at how perfect this is. And then look at my room. Like, it's not even the same. It's not close at all. And my coworker, she was amazing. She was like, Josie, your students don't know who they are. Your students love you. Your room is awesome. Like, stop comparing yourself. You guys are totally different people. And at that moment I was like, okay, yeah. I need to show this real me on Instagram as well, because I go through it. You go through it. Everyone has that moment of, oh my gosh, I'm not good enough. But I tell people all the time, your students don't follow all these teachers on Instagram. Your students have no idea what else is out there. They love you. You are doing what's best for them. You are doing your best, and you have to stop comparing. But I find myself in that trap a lot as well.
And very often the other teachers at your campus are also not following these people on Instagram. So they're not sitting there comparing your lesson to them either.
Exactly.
But I love that you struggle with that too, because sometimes people watch these episodes or they see people with these huge followings and they think that, oh, they don't ever have that envy or feel like mine's not as good. But all of us struggle with it for sure.
Right. Or even student behavior. Like, you'll see these videos of these perfect classrooms and you're like, well, my classroom did not look like that today.
Nope. But when you get that one good picture, you're like, oh, for sure I'm posting this one because I got it together today.
Exactly. See, that's what I need to get better at. I need to post like my real classroom, or what it's like when the kids are crazy, or what it's like when my classroom is a mess. I need to get better at that too.
About how many students do you serve?
On my team, I have 150.
Wow.
I know.
So do you find that difficult to connect with kids on a personal level when there's that many?
Yeah. So at my old school, I had 80 students on my team. And so it was really easy to get to know all the students right away. But this year, going to 150 students, it was a huge change. Even just learning all the names of my students, it took a lot longer than in the past. And I felt terrible about that. But I really feel like just now I really know all of my students and their personalities. So that was really difficult to get to know 150 students as compared to 80.
So when you have that many kids and you're trying to build relationships with them, what specific things do you personally do to connect with your students?
I do a lot of like talking to them, finding out what their interests are and talking to them about that, whether that be sports or video games or their dog. At the beginning of the year, we do a lot of get to know you activities. So that's when I find out a lot about them. And even if it's while they're working, just say, how is your dog? And say their dog's name, or how was football this weekend? Or what did you do in Fortnite last night? Whatever it is, just trying to talk to them and making them realize that, oh, like she cares about me or she knows about this little part of my life. But it's definitely been hard with the more amount of students. But I do have a homeroom class too. So then I get to know kids a little bit more in there. So that helps. But it's definitely been difficult.
Well, and now you're part of the Get to Teach On family too. So how did that come about?
Oh, it was crazy. So I have been friends, like internet. It's weird that you're internet friends with people, but I've been internet friends with Chris Campagno for a long time, like since I first started my Instagram. And so we just talk all the time. And then he was like, let's meet. And so I went to Get Your Teach On in San Diego. And so I worked like behind the scenes there. And then they just asked me to present at the national conference in Dallas a couple months ago. Chris FaceTimed me and asked me, and I was like, oh my gosh, yes. So I'm so excited.
Now, often when I talk to educators and when I think about my own personal journey presenting, we're really comfortable getting in front of a group of kids and doing all these kind of wild things. But sometimes when we have to get in front of other people our age or other adults, that is a whole nother story. Do you find yourself still having some of that anxiety or that fear when presenting in front of adults?
I do, but mine comes from my age and being young and presenting to a crowd that's like either my age or older than me. Sometimes I feel like they're going to think that I don't know what I'm doing, or they're going to think she's young, she doesn't know, so that's where my fear comes from. Not really from speaking in front of people, just speaking in front of like a more mature crowd.
Right.
Just their perceptions of me, I guess. That's what I'm fearful of.
No, I totally can get that too. So are you nervous about your debut at Get Your Teach On?
Not really. I feel like I would be more nervous if I hadn't ever been to one before, but I've been to two. I know how they run. It's such high energy, and that's why I'm in my classroom, so I'm excited. I'm sure I'll be nervous when I get there, but
yeah. So, if there's listeners or viewers who are watching this and they have no idea what Get Your Teach On is, how would you describe it?
It is a once in a lifetime conference, twice if you're lucky, but it is a conference unlike any other. Usually when you sit in PD, you are sitting all day, you are bored, you're on your phone, you're scrolling through Instagram, you're on your laptop, you're not paying attention. And at Get Your Teach On, you won't be on your phone for a second because it's just so engaging and hands-on, and you will learn so much in 2 days, and you'll just want to go back and implement everything into your classroom.
That is totally true. Well, Josie, I know you talked about learning a whole new curriculum this year, but outside of that, what is something that you're working on getting better at?
One of my personal goals for my classroom, I don't know if this is what you meant or not, but is just getting my students more into reading scientific texts. I think that's been a difficult challenge for me. Especially because we went away from textbooks in science, which is awesome. Nobody likes textbooks, but students still need to learn how to read nonfiction articles and nonfiction text. So that's been one of my goals this year. But the curriculum piece has definitely been my biggest struggle this year.
Right. Well, I will say, you seem like anytime I've interacted with you and on here, you seem like a really bubbly, really excited person. But I'm sure just like anybody else, you have days of struggle or doubt or feeling insecure. When those kind of moments hit you, what do you do to press forward and continue being the best you can be?
Right, it happens a lot. I surround myself with amazing people. I have a great team of teachers this year that I can vent to. I will call my mom and I'll vent to her. I'll FaceTime my best friends. Really just surrounding myself with positive people. Then I also take time for yourself. I like to work out. I like to binge watch TV shows. Anything.
What TV show are you totally into right now?
Oh, they're all over. I mean, I'm waiting for Stranger Things to come back on, but it's not going to come back on for a long time.
That's awesome.
And I just got a notification that my computer's on low battery.
Oh, okay. Well, I actually had one final question anyway.
Perfect.
And that is, if you wanted to give teachers one piece of advice, what is the one thing you wish you could tell them all?
I would say what we've already talked about. It's what I tell everyone is to not compare yourself, especially as first-year teachers. Yes, Instagram is a wonderful place and Pinterest is a wonderful place, but you can't get caught up in that. Focus on yourself, focus on your classroom. Don't compare because there will always be big ideas out there. But you've got to focus on yourself, and what you're doing for your students is awesome.
Awesome. Well, Josie, thank you so much for agreeing to be my guest tonight. I've absolutely loved following your journey on social media and getting to meet you in person. And I can't wait to see you present at the national conference this year in Dallas for Get Your Teach On. But I know that you've got a crazy busy schedule too. So I just want to say thank you for sharing a piece of your story with us tonight.
No, thank you. And I've loved getting to know you. I Get Your Teach On, and your admin session is amazing and everyone needs to go to it. And you did not pay me to say that. It really is amazing. I'm trying to get my principal to go. So
yeah, totally. Well, and thank you everybody who listened and watched tonight, or whenever you're listening or watching this. And make sure you join me each week as I find different people in the education world to bring and share some of their story with you. Everybody have a great night, and make sure you get out there and be brave enough to share some of your story as well.